yes, sir. Welcome to Under the Hood Sports. I'm your host with the most, Johnny Hill. And of course, if you don't know me, you really should know me. Hey, man, I got a special guest in front of me. If you don't know him, you really are asleep. This man is from Canada. He does it all in the media field, from writing articles to interviews to pictures to video. He does it all and he tells the story. From NFL players to CFL players to like high school. He does it all. College, whoever you are, and if you need a story told, Jay-Z would tell it. If you don't know who Jay-Z is Jordan Zimmerslick. Hey, I tried, Jay-Z. Hey, man, it's Jordan, man. Hey, so Jay-Z, say
Y'all can
something
just call
about
me
it.
Jay-Z.
Yeah, facts. What you say, Jay-Z?
Johnny Bless could just call me Jay-Z. You're never trying the last name again, but appreciate you having me, and looking forward to talking. Been on here a couple of times now on the Roar at Memphis in person, and now from Canada. So looking forward to talking a little bit about Jay-Z Media, Under the Hood Sports, and a lot more.
Under the Hood Sports just went national today, man. We are also, we broke the border. We're in Canada too now, technically. Hey, man.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Shout out to Jay-Z for making us international today.
Oh yeah.
But Jay-Z, man. Let's go ahead and dive deep into it, man. Tell the audience a little bit about who you is and why did you start Jay-Z Media, man?
Yeah, so quick introduction. My name is Jordan Zlomislic. That is how you pronounce my last name. And from Ottawa, Canada. Been doing the media stuff for about, I think this is year 5. I've been doing it since 2019. And been doing everything from writing articles, doing interviews, now doing pictures, videography, documentaries, highlight tapes, you name it, really, I'm doing it. And really got into it because I played football. And unfortunately, I didn't have, I guess, the it factor that everybody talks about, and had to look at other options to be able to make it to the NFL and make it to, I guess, like the next level of football, because I couldn't do it as a football player. So I looked into the media side. Originally, I wanted to be a broadcaster or a reporter of some kind. And so I dabbled a little bit in that, writing articles, doing podcasts, all that kind of thing. And then I really fell in love with taking pictures and doing videography, and kind of found out how to mix that with the reporting side, and doing that with articles and doing that with interviews and all that sort of things, with documentaries and overall telling stories. I think one of my passions has been just telling stories, and telling stories through pictures, video, written form as well. Like I said, writing articles, and I like telling good stories and influential stories, and sorry, and a lot of great athletes that have very influential stories. A lot of them are inspirations for little kids or even adults. So being able to tell athlete stories, I feel like I'm able to make some kind of impact, not only in my field, but globally, and on the internet and everything of that nature. Just being able to kind of not only help the athletes have their impact, but also have my impact of my own with the athlete, and with the audiences that I'm telling these stories to. So definitely been an awesome journey, just being able to grow as a reporter, content creator, and really just try to. I've had a lot of great experiences, and a lot of it has been just trying to be the best version of myself, being the best version of a content creator that I can be, and really just soaking everything in, from like internship with the University of Memphis with their creative team for the football team. That's how I met you.
Mhm.
Going down to the Senior Bowl back to back years, recently going to a couple visits with some kids from Canada to Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, and Mississippi State. Like those are really great opportunities and great experiences for myself that like I don't take for granted whatsoever. And I think I've been able to really just experience all sorts of different things from just normal like life lessons from just being able to appreciate little things and like these like big opportunities and also just learning to not only be a better content creator and like create better stories, but also just try to also become a better man as well. As I'm only 18 years old, I'm still growing up, so I'm trying to kind of learn as many life lessons along the way. And I think a lot of the things that I've been doing within my field and also just having great life experience has definitely taught me to be a better person than I was when I first got into this business for sure. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself, a little bit about Jay Z Media, what I've been doing, what I've been trying to do,
Yeah.
and yeah, a lot of it is has come. Or I guess we've crossed paths a lot with us being in Memphis, and then we went to the Senior Bowl together.
Hmm.
And I'm sure we're gonna cross paths again very soon at some point. So looking forward to that. Another under the hood Jay Z Media in person collaboration on the way.
It's happening for sure, man. Jay Z, man, it's different, right, man? Because a lot of people on the outside looking in, man, they really don't understand the hard and the hardship of your process. You know what I'm saying? Because Jay Z, it's one thing to interview somebody. It's another thing to take pictures and video, then want to write about them. Because you're doing the whole nine, bro. Like, tell the audience, right, about what part of the process of telling an athlete story do you most fall in love with? Is it the picture, the video, writing, or interview process?
I would say it's the interview process, but the interview process usually comes alongside like taking pictures and also just experiencing like the athlete stories, if that
Mhm,
makes any sense. Like doing a documentary, for example, on an athlete or a project where you're telling their story in depth. You're going to be experiencing kind of like a little bit of their life while you're telling their story. So, a great example would be well, I've got a couple great examples actually just recently, like telling athlete stories. One would have been in January when I was in Maryland telling Devontae Williams' story. He's a running back for the Ottawa Red Blacks here in the CFL.
mhm.
I stayed at his place, like pretty much like lived like kind of like a part of his family for a couple of days. And like we actually got into a car accident in January as well, where like I was able to kind of like feel a part of like his family where they were taking care of me in that sense, like during like that time in like that moment. So being able to kind of experience like also just like seeing where he grew up, seeing where he went to high school, and then also like having that kind of life experience at the whole same time. I was able to really like get to know him as a person, get to know where he's coming from as a family standpoint. He also just had a like newborn baby at the time, so I was able to kind of see like where he's at like in life, not just football. So I was able to kind of see that point of view, and then also just doing an interview with him. Certain things once you witness somebody's life like in person, whenever you're talking to them in an interview, a lot of it makes more sense to you because you understand what they're saying more about like certain things. If they're talking about like their upbringing and you know who their family is, you know about their upbringing before you even ask the question. So you kind of understand like what the context of like his answer will be. Certain points of like his high school career. Like I understood because he had told me about playing with Dwayne Haskins in high school and how that experience was prior to us even doing the interview. And then like learning about like certain off the field like journeys and little things a part of his whole football career and also his life prior to even like doing these interviews. During the interview, it's kind of like it's all just kind of unfolding, but you already know like all of it. So being able to tell the athlete story through that interview and also just kind of, I guess, help the audience understand what you understand as like the person telling the story. I think that's the most kind of influential part is just kind of being able to, help the athlete have their entire story be like told, unfolded, and kind of exposed to the audience because a lot of I find in media a lot of times like the people doing these documentaries they kind of cut certain parts of the story out where like I'm not gonna do that. Like I'm gonna tell like the story how it is and how like the athlete wants it to be told. So I think being able to experience their life a little bit and then telling their life through an interview, I think that's my kind of favorite part of doing like what I do and then also just kind of seeing it also unfold from like the posting perspective where like you see how like the audience actually likes the final product, how the athlete likes the final product, and also how their family likes it too. Because a lot of the times, like it is a big part of like the family where like they see a documentary put on by like about their son or their daughter or maybe a nephew and being able to kind of see like that final product means a lot to them to see like their reactions is pretty fulfilling at times.
Right. Jay-Z, let's talk about this right now, bro. Canadian football. It's entirely slept on. Even Chad Ochocinco said it's harder than what people think, and he struggled there. So tell the audience a little bit about the rules and just the difference from the CFL to the NFL.
So a lot of people they say football is like I guess universal, like you can play it anywhere, like whatever kind of football you're playing, everybody thinks it's just football. I say that's that's not how it is really here in Canada. I think it's a whole different sport, really, just because of like the different rules and I guess things that you have to adapt to. So one thing that I hear a lot of, like with CFL players, um, growing up in Canada, you're playing the Canadian game. Growing up in the States, you're playing the American game. So when you go to the CFL, there's Canadians and Americans playing. Whenever the Americans come to the CFL, they typically don't know much about the Canadian game of
Yeah,
football, where like they have to adapt to everything.
for sure.
The Canadians on the other side, once they go to the CFL, they've already been playing this Canadian game their entire lives. So they don't need to adapt to anything. So usually the Canadians have that upper edge on these Americans as soon as they get to training camp. They're going to be a little better than these American rookies that are coming in for the first time just because they know about the waggle, which is where receivers are running up to the line of scrimmage prior to the play even starting. As a slot back, as a receiver,
Yeah.
you've got a head start. You also have a wider field. On punts, you cannot come closer than 5 yards to the returner as a punt team, or
Mhm.
else you'll be flagged. I think it's a 15-yard penalty now. So, like, that's called no yards. It's kind of like a 5 yard halo for a punt returner. And with a wide field, it gives these punt returners a great opportunity to make a move and get into space very easily and, make a big play. And it's very entertaining, but it's also something to adapt to for these Americans. And then also with one extra player on the field, for quarterbacks, it could be an advantage or a disadvantage because one more receiver also means one more defensive back. So having that extra receiver might be good in certain positions, but it could also be bad because maybe you don't have that extra receiver. Maybe it's just an extra DB and you have a running back in that position instead of a receiver or something of that nature. So having 12 players on the field, it's something to adapt to as well because in America, you're only playing with 11. Um, Three downs as well. Like that's a big deal as well. Like there's a lot more punting, there's a lot more field goals because there's a lot more third downs because I mean, in the NFL and the NCAA, third down is usually a passing down or like 1 yard run, like whatever to get the first down. In the CFL, that's your last chance. There's no fourth down. So on third down, you're hunting the ball, kicking the ball, or you might be doing a QB sneak for 1 yard, 2 yards to get the first down and try to continue your drive. But I think it does make I think the three down rule is maybe the worst rule in the CFL just because it causes a lot more punting and nobody likes punting. Like I know like some he's a punter. I've got other punter friends out there, so like I mean no disrespect to them, but it's not really that entertaining to see you punt. Like, sure, like punt returns can be very explosive once in a
Yeah,
while,
you can.
but punt return touchdowns only happen maybe like once every few games. So when you have 12, 13, 14 punts a game and you don't have one great return all game, like it gets really boring.
Yeah,
So to kind of like recently, like the CFL has had opportunities to merge with the XFL with like other leagues in the states. Like I believe they probably had an opportunity at one point with the USFL, where they probably could have, had American teams, Canadian teams, and then also figure out something with the rules where I say like the CFL should adapt to four downs so then it is a little more entertaining. The
yeah,
American fans might like it some more because like here in Canada, the three downs, like it's something that we've kind of just always lived with and we all kind of just have adapted to over time, I guess.
yeah.
But the Americans, like I'm sure you don't want to watch three down football. Like
Nah,
sure you might seem it it's like find it interesting once in a while, but it's like shit, like it ain't that great. So
not.
to be able to have four down football might be an advantage for the CFL in the future. Hopefully the near future because we don't want the CFL to die anytime soon. Um, uh, but other than that, I think like the waggle, for example, I think that's a great technique for receivers. If you got speed, like you're getting a head start. Just imagine Tyreek Hill getting a 5 yard head start on every play. Like that's
That's
gonna work
crazy.
for him every single time. He's gonna blow right past the DB. Um, other rules that kind of favor the players would also be just like the wider field. It gives you more space, especially the speed guys. It favors them. I think like the CFL Canadian football has its pluses, it has its disadvantages. It really depends on the person. It depends on the player, your position as well. There's also a rule where like the defense has to be 1 yard away from the line of scrimmage. So for pass rushing, like that also causes either difficulties or could be an advantage because you have a little bit of a head start to make a move on the offensive lineman. But like really, other than that, like it is very similar to the American game because it's football is football to a certain degree. You can't really change it that much, but definitely has its advantages, disadvantages, and there is some differences for sure.
Okay, Jay Z, what have been the best athlete story you have covered in your young career?
The best stories. Can I give you like three?
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Three.
All right. because I can't put just one down because
Facts.
some people might see this and be like, why isn't mine on here?
Facts.
Um,
Very
uh,
true.
but I'll give you three. Uh, Number one would be a close friend of mine now, Devontae Dedmon. He actually brought it up yesterday. I was his very first interview in the CFL. He actually recently had an opportunity with the Miami Dolphins. I think I told you about him whenever I was down there in Memphis
Mhm.
too. He had an opportunity with the Dolphins. He was the special teams player of the year here in Ottawa in 2021, and really he's had a all around great career. Unfortunately, he just suffered a bad injury to his left shoulder, so he'll be out for the rest of this season. But like it's gonna be a great like next couple of years for him. As long as he stays healthy, it's gonna be really like he has that it factor on special teams. And when I mentioned like that 5 yard halo on punt returns, that wider field, he uses those things to his advantage. And the stats speak for itself, really. Like he's had, he has a record for the most kick return touchdowns in the shortest amount of time. So I think it was 5 or 6 in 15 games. He was the fastest player to reach like that 5 touchdown mark, and then I think he even added one on to that with 6, I believe. So he definitely has that it factor. I've been able to tell his story throughout the process of his career from 2019 being his first interview to recently doing podcasts with him and like little documentary series with him. So definitely would put him on that list for best stories I've told. I've, I would also have to put Ottawa's very own Jesse Luketa on this list. I went to my very first Reese's Senior Bowl last year because of his great performance at Penn State. He ended up going to the Senior Bowl, had 2 sacks in the Senior Bowl, and I was able to tell the story of his career leading into that NFL draft where he ended up getting picked by the Arizona Cardinals. And just being able to tell his story was very big for myself because obviously it was at the Senior Bowl, was my first kind of NFL opportunity. And also just being able to tell his story was huge because he comes from my hometown, Ottawa, and he's now in the NFL. So being able to tell his story on how he made it there was a great opportunity for myself. And it was a great experience just being able to be there in Mobile and also just tell such a great story because, I mean, if you just look up Jesse Luketa now, he's definitely made a name for himself in the NFL, and also his story speaks for itself. So being able to tell that one was great. And then I would say recently being able to, I wouldn't necessarily put like just one player. Actually, recently just going down like south and being able to like touch on like the college football side of things, I
Yeah.
would point one out. Malik Straker, he's a linebacker for Arkansas State University. He is from Brampton, Ontario, which is just 4 hours down the road. It's actually where my cousins grew up, and just being able to tell his story was very cool. Just because like he actually played college football here in Ottawa at Carleton University prior to actually going stateside and having that opportunity with Arkansas State, where he has definitely made a name for himself. He's a captain on the defense, and I think he's draft eligible this year, and he has 2 years left of school, I believe. So, being able to have that opportunity in a couple of years to eventually make it to the NFL from Canada will be huge.
Yeah.
And he is one of like the most intellectual like people I've ever really talked to or met. He posts like if you see like the quotes of the day that I do, like a couple of them have actually come from him.
Hmm.
And he posts his own things once in a while on Instagram where like he's posting quotes or like journals from his journal that he writes in and things of that nature. And if you look at any interview that I've done with him, I think I've done 2 or 3 at this point. He's definitely dropped some gems in there. And I think the first one I did, his first real gem with the Jay Z Media interviews was all failure is psychological, where you're not failing unless you think you're failing.
That's right.
The second one, he mentioned something about like there are two different kinds of people in the world where like one person when you walk into a room you adjust to the room, and the second person is when you walk into a room you make the room adjust to you. And he asks the question at the end, what kind of person are you? So that was another like great gem that he dropped on interviews that I've done with him. And those are things that I'll never forget, because being able to talk to that person and then also just, hear him talk on these interviews, and also just be able to like catch those gems for not only myself to hear and see, but also for my audience. Those things are awesome. And like I said, to talk about his journey from Canada, go to Arkansas State University, and eventually to the NFL is a great story by itself. And to add on to like his intellectual like quotes and everything of that nature, it's a great opportunity for myself, and also just for like the Canadian culture as well, to kind of showcase our athletes on and off the field.
Facts. Jay-Z, finally, what are the final question is your three goals you have for yourself this year? You have really been doing it up, man. But what are your three goals for the rest of this year?
So for the rest of this year, I would say first off, definitely make my presence felt here in Ottawa and here in Canada with Jay Z Media, because I've obviously gone down south quite a bit. I've done like a little share of work in the States with the universities, with some NFL guys as well. But really, I want to kind of get my roots back, because obviously, like, this is where I started. This is where like it all began for Jay Z Media here in Ottawa. So I want to just make my presence felt here, be able to kind of, I guess, help out athletes from this area, and also just kind of maybe help somebody blow up here, like do something influential here in Ottawa, here in Canada. I've already been doing it by, I mean, like the last week going on these visits. It was with a couple kids that are from my area, a couple in Quebec, actually from Jeff's side of Quebec. So being able to tell a couple of those kids stories, and then also Justin Rowe, he's from here in Ottawa. He has, I believe, 16 or 17 offers now. Memphis has to offer him at some point. It's going to happen soon, I imagine. He's a DB, class of 2025. Uh, Coach Clark, if you're watching this, offer him. But he's a he's a he's a great DB, and I'm gonna be telling his story quite a bit as he process goes through his process of high school ball, and then eventually college ball, pro ball, and NFL Hall of Fame one day maybe as well. So being able to tell tell stories of that nature here in Ottawa is definitely a goal of mine. Make my presence felt. Goal number two is also just to keep building great connections. Recently, I've been able to meet a lot of great people, and I guess a part of this goal is also just keeping the great connections that I've already built, and these relationships that I built with people like yourself, people like Landon, people I've met in Memphis and Mobile, Arkansas State, anywhere really. I want to be able to build more connections, and also just keep building the great connections that I already have. Um, because really, you never know who you're going to be working with down the road. Maybe you'll be working with the same people you worked with four years ago, maybe 2 years ago, maybe last week. You might be working with them down the road at ESPN, at wherever you want to work, really. So never burn a bridge, because you never know what's under that bridge. Um, and then goal number three, I don't really set that many goals, so it's a little tough to name all three of them that I might have this year. But another one would definitely just be just keep going, keep it at the pace that I'm on, because I feel like I'm on a good pace right now. I think the quote is still up. from the other day. I don't think I posted this one on Instagram. I'm not sure if you could even see it, but it says focus on the step in front of you, not the entire staircase. Because when you're going up the staircase, obviously you're going to be looking up and you're going to be looking at that final destination of where you're walking and where you're going next. But you can't just you can't just teleport to the top of the staircase. You need to take the steps. So I guess that's something that I've been kind of doing a little bit. I've been,
Yeah.
skipping a couple of steps once in a while. So I need to just stay at my pace, keep take it one step at a time, focus on the next step, not the entire staircase. So I guess that's a goal of mine, just to keep on the same pace that I'm on. Because I mean, if I look at everything that I've accomplished so far, I believe I'm on a good pace right now. I might be wrong, might be right, not sure. It's like I can't
No,
really tell that much, but I guess just staying on the same pace I'm on, focusing on the next step in front of me, not the entire staircase. That's definitely a goal of mine, and I could let anybody else just write some other goals for me too as well. Because I mean, we could write them as quotes of the day. We could do whatever you want with the goals, and because I don't really set goals for myself. I just kind of take it day by day, figure out what's happening, and then I do have goals, but I don't really like set them like I guess time with time. Like
mm,
I have goals, but like I don't have a timeline on them. I guess
facts. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But
can't rush success, right?
facts, facts. But Jay Z, you're on a perfect pace. Thank you for thank you for coming on Under the Hood Sports. Everybody, go check out Jay Z, man. He's really up next. He's a rising star in this media thing. Hey, don't sleep because you will blink and miss him, man. Hey, man, appreciate you, Jay Z. And we are out of here, man.
All right, I appreciate you having me on.